Do you believe you only live once?
No,
Really?
no, you definitely. There's got to be more. I mean, the basic like energy is never
Destroyed. It's
destroyed.
just only changed. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Welcome to the AWL podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Wiseman, and our guest today is Melissa Arachi.
Yeah, I give you
Close enough?
B minus.
B minus, I'll take it. That was my average. So, Melissa is a registered holistic nutritionist. She's pretty much the head honcho for Designs for Sports Canada,
Oh, you're so kind.
or one of. And she's also a sports nutrition specialist and teaches for the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition.
That I do.
Awesome. So you are indeed one of the main experts that I know of and are in my circle of people that I tend to go to and frequently ask questions or want to learn more about what's going on in the world of nutrition and health and just overall have a better understanding of how the body works and all that cool stuff. So I'm really excited to be talking to you today and kind of asking you questions and getting to know what you know and really get a better understanding of where the world falls right now as far as focusing on health, immune health, nutrition, and unfortunately that the deep fear that a lot of us now have based around what's going on in the world with the viruses and COVID and kind of trying to bridge the gap a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, how have you been?
I've been good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been good. My area is a little bit more open than your area. So I've been like...
Living your life a bit.
The fact that I'm so grateful that I was able to go out for breakfast, like sit and have breakfast.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
It's funny, right?
I haven't done that in a long.
You want to practice gratitude, but it's kind of funny where you're like, wow, like just sitting in a restaurant, we can be grateful for that too.
I haven't been to a restaurant in over a year. Okay.
I remember you and I.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the last times before the lockdown.
I don't even remember if we went to a restaurant. Where did we go?
We had barbecue. We ate
No, that was
so
during
much
lockdown.
meat.
It was in between.
Yeah, there was a period where it was open because we sat in.
Toronto has been locked down longer than anywhere else in North America, and in some ways longer than everywhere else in the world.
Crazy.
It's nuts. And you know, it's the path that our government unfortunately chooses to take. And hey, like there's a certain point in my mental or in my life where my mental health needs to be taken care of, and I start to kind of just back off and say, this is where we're at. Let's focus on other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with regards to COVID and health and things like that, I think it would be important for people to have a better understanding of what are some things that they could be doing right now to boost their immune system through, let's say, nutrition or supplementation or lifestyle habits. What are some tips that you give to people?
Yeah, it's funny. I have this like thing that I call the hierarchy of health that I coach my clients in my nutrition practice, and they're always coming to me. And of course, I mean, I work for a supplement company, full disclosure, right? I support coaches. I work with supplements and food. And the first part of that hierarchy of health is community and your sense of purpose and happiness.
Yeah, which is something we're not getting much of.
No.
Okay.
Not so much.
No.
And we've had research, I mean, since like 1986 was one of the first papers I pulled where we saw that loneliness impacted the immune system, actually lowered your natural killer cell activity.
That's scary.
So for those that are not familiar with natural killer cells, they're like the snipers in your body, right, for your immune system. That is insane to me. So that's I am really happy that awareness has been made to focus on nutrition and, you know, move your body more. But there isn't really a more awareness to what actions can we actually take to stay more connected. A lot of our day-to-day now is through Zoom, is on a video call, and I think even that people are just getting so they're over it. They don't want to be on video anymore. It's not the same. So one of the first things that I chat with clients about is how can we stay connected? And let's say you do live alone or with your partner. What can you do to actually connect more to yourself? Because we can connect to other people, but unfortunately, depending on where you live, that might not be a possibility. So how can you connect better to yourself? And I actually go through the 5 senses, and so like touch, maybe it's foam rolling or yoga or stretching, or maybe it's essential oils that you're like just burning to kind of like relax and chill and have some time to ground yourself. Get out in nature instead of stare at the media. So I would say that's the first piece of really how I would optimize my immune system or help and support my clients. Of course, there are a ton of nutrition strategies.
Yeah. Well, before we get into those, I just wanted to kind of touch base on what you just said, because it reminded me of a time where my father, who was fairly intelligent, he was an academic for sure and loved research. And I remember him telling me this like 15, 20 plus years ago, way longer than 15 years ago. And he said that humans are social creatures. And when you take that aspect away from them, they die. And I think this conversation was brought up because I was asking him, how long do you think someone could live stranded on an island? Mm-hmm. And he said, it really would depend on the type of person, not so much what they're able to do. And the reason why is because, and he didn't explain the health impacts, but he specifically said that we are tribal people. We belong in groups. Hugs are good for us. Yes. Handshakes are good for us. Being around each other is good for us. And when you take that away, we become sick and we can die. And I found that really, really interesting. And, I was like, I didn't really understand the science behind it. But after going through what we've gone through this last year, I really understand it. Thank God I've got a family. Without it, I would be messed up 100% because I'm crazy as is. Can you imagine me locked away for a year? I'd be so nuts. I'd be a nutball. And with that being said, it's funny because whenever I do feel lonely because of what's going on with these lockdowns, within minutes, and I don't know if this is more so me just playing games in my head, but I always feel like I'm getting a cough. Like I feel like the back of my throat starts to get sore. I'm like, uh-oh, do I got the vid? But I never do, right? Mm-hmm. And with that being said, it's interesting how much your mindset can dramatically impact how you feel immediately. Me just worrying about that would depress my immune system, wouldn't it? Like that, because that would stress me out.
The placebo effect is incredibly strong, and in studies with antidepressants, we can see similar outcomes with or without the drug.
Okay.
And you said I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, so I deal with the whole body. And yes, I do deal with a little woo-woo, as some people like to call it. I'm very rooted in science.
What do you mean by woo-woo?
So woo-woo as in an energetic component, that we are more than the meat bag that we're wearing. Yeah. And by you showing me that you're feeling, especially here, this is like your throat chakra.
Which is thyroid based, right?
It's thyroid based. And, a lot of what I've read is if thoughts in that are not in alignment with, you're feeling lonely or you're thinking of everything that's been going on and it's a negative feeling, it does cause a little constriction. And then if we feel things like expansion, that's like, let's move towards it. Absolutely. Your body knows inherently,
And it's funny because generally over the last couple months, I've definitely had my ups and downs. I believe like everyone who lives, especially who lives in Toronto. And anytime that's happened, I've felt something here. And I was always worried. I'm like, oh God, here we go. But in reality, it's really probably more so the fact that I'm stressed. And my body's saying, hey, it's time to breathe. It's time to chill. And luckily, I'm well equipped in the ability to pull my mind out of a negative kind of position fairly easily. Yeah. But I didn't always have those skill sets, or I had to develop that throughout my entire life. But it's really interesting to kind of have a better understanding of what is going on, what is being used as a tool to curb the spread of this virus is actually putting us all in a position where we are at a higher risk.
People are celebrating the stay at home.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Right? You see that. And listen, I'm by no means saying that we need to get into massive groups and spit on each other.
A lot of people would disagree with you.
It'd be a good time.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is that more awareness needs to be made to this, that we're celebrating. And I think what we're feeding now in the younger children who are unable to go to school, unable to see, this is going to become their new normal.
Yeah.
So we were already, can I swear?
Yes.
Crappy.
Okay.
Crappy
yes.
at connecting.
Yeah.
Or at least that was the path that we were going.
Worse, yeah.
My fear is that on the other side of this is going to be incredibly difficult.
What I don't like is the lack of focus towards educating the communities and the public on ways that they can improve their health outcomes in this situation. What I don't like is the lack of transparency with regards to the decision making and why certain decisions are being made. Mm-hmm. If they were going to honestly tell us, the reason why we have to keep doing this is because we did not, over the last 10 years, position this government and our medical system in a way that protects you guys. And because of that, unfortunately, we screwed up, and this is the only solution we can manage right now. Mm-hmm. They said that. I would, of course, point fingers, but I would be understanding.
But that would require owning up and...
Which is what I don't like, because this is supposed to be based off, these decisions are supposed to be based off of, science. We'll edit that out for sure. So these decisions are supposed to be based off of science.
Yeah.
And if you are not owning up to something, does that not mean you are lying? You're hiding a truth. Right? And to me, that is what's driven me nuts this entire time. It's not so much the decisions being made. It's the lack of transparency. And it's almost like we're too dumb to get it. So please shut up and let us do our jobs. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. And it makes me feel like they are dumb. Because if you think that your entire community is too dumb to understand, then that just goes to show your lack of understanding of your job in reality. Because obviously there's a lot of dumb people out there, but there's also a lot of smart cookies out there, with strong opinions, and they need to be, there needs to be transparency on all levels, and I don't think we're going to get that. And I've come to learn that government does not like to offer transparency, and I might be naive have only beginning to believe that fact as of lately, whereas perhaps maybe I was a little more pro or positive towards government in the past. And I am not an anarchist. I am not anti-government. I do believe government has its place. The individual who's in charge, though, and the decisions they make and how they communicate with their public, that needs to be improved, in my opinion, And again, I'm not here to judge anyone. It's just my thoughts based off of my personal experiences and how it's personally impacted me. And I know there's people who have significantly benefited from the situation, and or perhaps did not lose a parent because of the decisions that were made, who would highly disagree with me. And I would agree with them that their perspective is right because it's their situation. My perspective is right because it's mine. I can only perceive in my own world, right? And so I can't tell anyone that they're wrong. I can only say, this is not good for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. Okay, cool. So, having that sense of community, being a part of something, being able to connect with people is extremely impactful. What are some other things that you think people could be doing right now to improve their odds of, if, knock on wood, they got COVID? Mm-hmm. What could they do to improve their outcome?
I'd go right back to my little hierarchy. Underneath happiness, purpose, sense of community is sleep. Again, I've yet to get to nutrition, yet to talk supplementation.
Yeah, focusing on the basics first, right?
Focusing on the basics, the stuff that's not sexy to talk about,
yeah,
but is hugely impactful. Mm-hmm. So when we look at sleep, we see a bunch of markers negatively affected.
Yeah.
And you'd think that, it's just one bad night of sleep, I'm going to make up for it on the weekend. That's in fact a myth. Okay. You can't make up sleep.
So you're telling me, because I have a baby, and I'm sleeping like half the amount of hours that I normally sleep.
Take a solid 5 years off your life.
Really? Okay. So having a baby was a mistake.
It was a mistake. Okay. This is coming from someone who doesn't have a child.
Okay.
Right. So, there are scenarios where it's out of our control. Yeah. But there are things. This has kind of been my mindset. I've looked at sort of stoicism, let's say over the last year, and I've been able to apply it just so many concepts in my life, and really, and I'm going to absolutely not explain it to its fullest, but I think for me, it comes down to what I take from it is what can you control?
Yeah.
What is within that circle of control, and what's outside of that circle? Yeah. Your son is absolutely outside of your circle of control.
I could control him, but I think it's not the right decision for sure.
Might not be a good parenting.
I don't think my wife would like that very much.
So if you are looking to optimize your sleep, optimize the areas that you can. You might not be able to change the fact that you're a shift worker. Yeah. I was a shift worker for 3.5 years. Yeah. And I decided, there were many reasons, but when World Health Organization, and I know World Health, who has a bad reputation now, but they put it on the list of carcinogens.
I was like, why is this band in control? The who? I was like, what is going on? Should they really be making decisions? But then,
good music.
Yeah.
Perhaps they could be making the decisions instead of
possibly better decisions.
World Health. Yeah. But I mean, shift work was put on the list of potential carcinogens. Yeah. And we know that disruption of circadian rhythm is going to be negatively affect your health. So I would say start to optimize your sleep, and it's the basics. Don't take melatonin. That's not your first step to optimize sleep. Yeah. Your first step is remove the blue light at night. Okay. Expose yourself to natural sunlight in the morning.
Can you tell people what blue light is then?
Yeah. What you're looking at,
But right? This is okay during the day, right?
You know what? So it's kind of like, again, what's within your realm of control. You work a job where you've now been moved entirely into your home office, and all of your meetings have become Zoom meetings. That's outside of your realm of control. So
I have an app on here called Flux.
Love Flux.
And it naturally changes the tone and light of the screen based off of the time of day. Yeah. Is that going to help me?
I mean, pre-COVID, I did a lot of traveling with time zone differences, and Flux is my best friend. So if you're listening and you're like, yeah, I too, changed time zones. I think the best hack, I hate using the word hack because it's like you're doing things quickly and rushed. The best way to optimize, certain shifts like this is do things that require zero willpower. Yeah. Flux is a free download. Yeah. You pop it on your computer. It does it for you. Yeah. It changes according to the time zone you're in. Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, you and I would have more of a difficult time, but you can do the blue blockers. Yeah. I have a hack on my phone to turn the screen red, not dim. This is where there's a misconception. You're not looking to dim your screen.
Yeah, you're trying to change
the hue. Yeah, yeah. And we're very simple creatures. Like humans, at night, we should be looking at orange and red hues. Why? Because that's what the sun looks like. Okay. The incandescent bulb allowed us to do all of these things, right? To have light and heat and all of this in our home, but it's doing us a disservice for our sleep. Okay. So that would be blue light, and then natural sunlight exposure in the morning is exactly that. Yeah. And then to those who are in, let's say North America, who are laughing like we're in the middle of winter, what sun? Yeah. You can do this through like a vitamin D lamp, a full spectrum bulb. Yeah.
I think I remember reading something years ago about a study that they did in Sweden. They took a bunch of college students and they wired them up and had them sleep in a bedroom or a room that was completely blacked out. And they pretty much tracked the waves, the beta waves and the alpha waves of the brain, cortisol levels, everything. And what they did is they had this like little laser that would, for a microsecond, just boom, turn on and off and hit the back of their knee on the skin.
Yeah, on the back of their knee.
And immediately you see a spike in their cortisol. Yeah. And it would go boom, boom. And I think that really helped me understand just how important it is to sleep in a room with all of the lights off, completely blacked out, because it's really more reminiscent of
create the cave,
being outside in a cave, no lights. This is how we spend more time evolving as cavemen than we have in our current civilization, right? I mean, we've spent more. Our genome was designed over 30,000 years, and we've only been really where we're at as far as starting to really create a civilization over the last 10,000, 12,000 years, and that's getting more, that's getting kind of away from health and focusing a little bit more on, true history, right? Of really how far back do humans go. But to not get too in depth on that, it's crazy to think that like so many things that we do now is actually harmful, but also beneficial in progressing our lives. And you also got to ask yourself, of course, 30, 40,000 years ago, we would die at the age of 20, 18, because you fell off a cliff or an animal ate you, right? Or you were malnourished or you froze to death. But nowadays, we are living for X that.
Well, we've expanded lifespan, but have we expanded health span?
Well, I guess it's a yes and no question. I think unfortunately, because people spend so much time um, living their best life, that when they're finally old enough for the way they live to start to really kick in, that's when the last 5 to 10 years is more so about trying to stay alive, as opposed to living the last 5 to 10 years in any sense of quality, right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Like let's say you didn't exercise, you slept like crap, you ate like crap, you drank, took pills, treated your body like a dump truck for 35, 45 years. You're 55, 65, 75. Those years might not be as enjoyable as they could have been, right? And so I think that's kind of a mixed up point of view, and unfortunately, that's how people tend to live. But say la vie, right? This is
YOLO.
YOLO, I guess. Speaking of YOLO, do you believe you only live once?
No.
Really?
No, you definitely. There's got to be more. I mean, the basic energy is never destroyed.
It's just only changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean.
So do you think that people come back as a different species on Earth, or what do you think?
I mean, if I could come back, my favorite animal is a duck-billed platypus. That would be goals.
I think you'd come back as a worm.
Those mother effers, no, they're poisonous. They're cute.
The duck,
but then they have poison that comes out of their claws.
Are you serious?
It's pretty much what I am now.
Yeah.
Cute.
It's like a duck and a honey badger combined, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's funny. So I grew up Roman Catholic.
Okay.
If you haven't already gathered from my hand gestures, I'm Italian. Well, my family's Italian. I'm Canadian. And I don't know. I don't know now. I'm not going to be, I don't believe in this. I don't know really.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's a philosopher, and I forget which one, who had said, if there is a God and you choose not to believe in him, her, God, you're pretty much screwing yourself. You don't really know. So you're better off just to believe in something in hopes of going somewhere after.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a universe type person. So I do believe that there's energy that you have. And I believe that your physical body will eventually go away, but I don't think the energy can.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think what I kind of look at is we are all made up of energy, right? And when your physical self ends and your time has come, your energy redistributes into the earth, it redistributes into space, redistributes into the universe over time, a long, long, long time. And with that being said, we are all, in essence, connected, right? Our energy is all shared and intermingled. So the energy that I have is energy that's probably come and gone in different forms millions of times, right? And has probably interacted with millions and billions and trillions of other forms of energy from other sources throughout all of time, right? So there can't possibly be a way where you and I don't share the same energy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, that helps me feel connected. And going back to kind of what you were talking about.
Wow, we just went full circle.
Yeah. So going back to where you kind of felt, I feel like that sense of community is so essential to immune health. I personally believe that my belief system based off of that, which I think is more rooted in science than it is in perhaps religion or spirituality, allows me to maintain that sense of connectedness. And it's funny because I ask people about religion, I ask people about spirituality, but mine really is rooted in understanding the cosmos to at least the limited degree that I do. And that's what makes me feel connected to people. And that's what makes me feel like I have a hold or an understanding or a grasp of my place in this vast nothingness that is the universe, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to kind of connect those points of, how can we improve our health, life and death, sense of community and connectedness energy-wise. because everything that goes comes back in some form, right? So it's really interesting. Awesome. And so, going back to health and going back to supplementation, going back to like certain types of lifestyle habits, what are some new things that are going on that people should be aware of with regards to, improving their health? And what is some new trending research right now that is pretty interesting that you are excited about that you can share with us and kind of blow my mind a little bit?
Yeah, nothing's new.
Okay.
No,
just recycled.
It's just recycled.
Reviewed.
I'm really excited that vitamin D is finally getting
some sunshine, some light.
Right?
Yeah.
The well-deserved light that it should.
Yeah.
Because we've long associated it with, like mood, or if you're in the strength and conditioning community, probably, the fact that it helps with anabolic hormones and testosterone production and all of that. So we've used it, but then not to this extent.
Yeah.
And this is research that has come prior to this virus and the pandemic that we knew that it had antiviral properties.
Yeah.
So that is very exciting for me because it's, it's kind of like one of those things where you're like, I know that this is cool and we should all know about this. So that's exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, somewhat related, but I'm going to bring it up because this is something that has actually shifted in my personal nutrition strategy, is daily intermittent fasting not having a massive impact. A study just recently came out that I was reading where there was a group that was able to eat, ad libitum between, I believe it was 12 and 8. So like the typical 16-8 fast, right? So if you're fasting for fat loss or you're fasting for longevity or whatever you're fasting for, technically it's time restricted feeding, but let's use the term fasting because we recognize it that way. And then another group that was eating just 3 meals per day. And when they looked at different biomarkers in fat loss, both groups had similar outcomes.
Yeah.
So I have actually since, this is funny. So a little bit of like my backstory is I had a pituitary tumor, tons of cortisol. I was this like alpha-driven paramedic. I figured I was normal.
Yeah.
And I always knew that time-restricted feeding was difficult for me.
Yeah.
But I forced myself to do it because like I'm a nutritionist and that's healthy. And now seeing a lot of this research where we actually don't know what is that dose, that minimum effective dose of fasting. Yeah. And it's looking like it's likely something that's a bit more prolonged. It's not the
like 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. So
and it's not so much a factor of body comp, but more so a factor of how it can almost like reboot your immune system, right?
Right. Yeah. And for those that are practicing it, I'm not saying like throw your practice out the window, because I do feel like for a lot of people it helps them control perhaps like sugar. So talking about immune health, if there's one thing that you're going to do, kick the sugar. Yeah. Right. Focus on whole foods. But for those who are using it for other strategies, like again, something to consider. And I've had tons of clients get amazing results with it. Yeah. But I would say those are two things I'm kind of excited about: vitamin D and fasting.
I personally can't do intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I'm too hungry.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts, and I get hangry and I get low blood sugar.
And there's another layer in there where it's like, are you forcing yourself to do this, where you're like you're truly needing more nutrition?
Isn't it better to just do what you can be consistent with?
I feel that,
because it's really a matter of time. Mm-hmm. Time doing something consistently is what generally drives improvement, right?
The pendulum swings. If you force yourself to do that fasting because you feel that is what you should be doing. Or
everyone else is telling you to do it. Right. I never listened to anyone when it came. Everyone's like, you should try this. I was like, I know my body well enough to know that I would not enjoy the first 10 hours of my day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I need breakfast in the morning. And in my mindset, it's like what your body uses to recover when you're sleeping is generally what you ate in the morning. Right? Well, so if you're waiting to eat until later in the day, you have less available to use, and thus your capability of repairing at night, should it not be reduced?
Well, let's talk about stress. So you're feeling more stressed. I'm feeling more stressed. I don't know if there's anyone who isn't in this current situation. You wake up in the morning, and that's when your cortisol should be at its highest. Yeah. right? So are we now going to, and this is the best part about the body is it's so magnificent, but also so basic,
Yeah.
is that stress is stress is stress.
Mm-hmm.
Stress worrying about the pandemic is the same stress as planning your wedding, is the same stress as getting in a car accident. So now you deprive your body of food in the morning when you're truly hungry, but you're fasting because that's what all the cool kids do.
Yeah.
Is that the best action plan for your nutrition and your overall health?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's and you know what, like when people try to make such big changes to their diet, that's stressful as well.
Yeah.
You know, not just on their body, but their mindset. The amount of people that I've spoken to who, you know, are experts in dietary strategies, and everyone has a different opinion,
Yes.
right? And that alone should tell enough people that there really is no one answer or one best thing. It's what works for you and what is going to make you feel happy long term, but also keep you healthy, right? Because of course you can feel happy eating Taco Bell, but does that mean
Is it in alignment with your goals?
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, it's our bodies belong to us. We can do whatever the hell we want. That's my personal opinion. But if your goal is to truly live a long, healthy life where you are energized and you're able to take advantage of great opportunities and get the most experience out of your day, having the right foods and energy input is probably a smart idea, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've eaten something that I shouldn't have that ruined the later half of my day.
Right.
Where I'm like, wow, I had some plans, and now my plans are to sit on my couch because I am bloated, I am gassy, I'm in pain. You know, like it's crazy to think that what you ate for that 2 to 5 minute enjoyment took 6 hours away from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think people think that way. It's kind of like an addiction. People don't think, they go, I need that 10-minute high, and that's it. I don't care what happens after I need it right now. You know? And I guess that goes down to why food and nutrition is so challenging for people, because we are, as a people, we gravitate towards that explosive high.
Yeah,
right?
Dopamine driven,
Yeah,
sure.
when you take, you know, people don't want that consistency. They want that boom sensation, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. You know, I think anyone, for the most part, probably gets it, right? But you know, there has to be a balance. There has to be some sort of moderation, right? Moderation is key, as they would all say. You know.
Yeah, it's like, spoiler alert. There is no one true diet.
Yeah.
There's no right way to do it.
Yeah.
Everyone, to your point, is biochemically individual, and I think anyone that has a book or a mission or whatever is going to have a stance on something. Yeah. And sure, there are some commonalities. Food that is made in a factory that comes in a package, probably not good.
Yeah.
Food that comes from the earth, probably good.
Yeah.
Perhaps sometimes not though.
Yeah.
And what it really comes down to, and like this is where I've been doing this now for over a decade, and at the point that I'm at in my nutrition practice is I know with certainty that I never tell my clients anything that they don't already know.
Yeah.
They come in, I mean, you can look up on Dr. Google absolutely everything. You can read a paper on how the ketogenic diet is the perfect diet, and then the next article is the vegan diet is the best diet. And honestly, truly, what it comes down to is what is in alignment with your outcome, your mission, and what are the specific behaviors to get there.
Yeah,
that's it.
But also, like, your genetics play a big role in what is the right diet for you too.
They can.
Like even your ancestry. Would you not agree? Like, where your genome was designed. What was the food source, the main food source there, right? Mm-hmm. To a degree. I mean, I wouldn't say that I 100% believe that, but it makes sense to me. I mean,
someone the other day said something like, we all need to be living on olive oil. Like, it was a big Mediterranean diet thing. And I'm thinking, like, so what if you were an Aboriginal person who lived in the Arctic?
Yeah, and never experienced
never been exposed to olive oil. How is that the one all? And that's a perfect example of where it's like, are there health benefits? There's polyphenols and huge benefits to eating olive oil or like a diet rich in those types of fats. Absolutely. But is that the best diet for everyone? Probably not.
Yeah. Have you ever had seal blubber?
No. Okay, I've had seal oil.
Okay.
But
what's it taste like?
It's a very pungent fat.
Yeah. Is it like fishy or is it more like?
Incredibly, it's like a fishy meat.
I love seals. They're so cute. I don't think I could ever eat seal meat.
I feel like it is legal here. It's illegal in places to eat seal meat.
Man, it's weird because I love animals, but I also
love eating animals.
Yeah, I also love eating them too.
Yeah, I'm with
but
you.
I was on Facebook the other day and I was scrolling, and this was late at night. And I was scrolling through, and I saw someone I know post a pretty graphic image of one animal eating another animal, and it was a close-up shot of the face, and I did not like seeing the pain, and it really messed with me. And I was like, he was posting it because they're saying you should be kind to animals, and eating animals is cruel. And then you look at the real world and how animals
eat other animals, and we are animals eating other animals.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different. However, I mean, like, I also understand the perspective how, if something's cute, you don't want to hurt it. 100%. Because that is just as natural a sensation as eating an animal.
Mm-hmm.
You want to protect something that's innocent. You want to protect something that's cute, and you don't necessarily want to harm something that when you don't need to. I agree. Yeah. That is natural. That's a natural sensation for a lot of people. But so is that sensation of needing to consume animal products, right? And a lot of people will agree that animal products aren't necessary for optimal health. I disagree. But a lot of people would also agree that consuming just a vegan-based diet is optimal for your health, which I also disagree. There, again, going back to what you said, there really is some sort of there needs to be a balance, yes. Right? And again, it really matters. What matters is what works for you, what makes you happy, and also, there are more philosophical aspects to diets too that people don't pay attention to. It's not just what it does for your body, but what does it do for your sense of self?
Yeah, your constitution. Absolutely.
Right?
There's a reason certain religion or spiritual practice incorporate in dietary advice.
Yeah.
And we carry on, like, food is so many levels.
Yeah. I mean, think about how it brings families together, right? It's one of the main connectors in life. And so people probably, I would assume, that lack connection tend to drive towards food, right? Because it reminds them of connection, right? And it's interesting. I don't want to get too deep into that because honestly, that's a stressful topic. And it can be very depressing to really dive too deep into. But
we could get a tub of ice cream and talk about it, though.
I think next time we have you on, we'll definitely have to smash some proper ice cream. But I'm not talking any of that coconut crap.
Oh, the real deal?
I'm talking the stuff that messes you and I both up.
Dude, it will mess me up.
Yeah. Well, you said it, so you brought it up. Okay. Yeah. So kind of going back to discussing like habits and lifestyle tricks and tips that you can implement to improve, outcomes with your health, outcomes with things like COVID and things like that. What's your opinion on COVID? Like, do you think it's something that people should really be worried about, or is it, or do you think it's something that is more so a hit or miss, or is it really a factor of your predisposition to certain health outcomes when it comes to, getting the virus, things like that?
I think it's like a yes, no, and, right? So yes, you should be concerned about COVID if you are an older, higher risk population with some of the predispositions, the obesity, the diabetes, the cardiovascular disease. Yeah. Should you?
Yeah.
Yes. If you and I living, relatively healthy life, no pre-existing medical, doing some of the right things day to day, perhaps no.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's where I think, again, there's all of these like blanket advice that's been given out. And I don't necessarily, so I can just speak to my personal experience. I've been cautious and realistic in the way that I've approached this situation. I have been respectful of the fact that there are certain bylaws, for instance, masks.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get outside and go for a walk.
For sure.
It's so funny, too. I've got this great little park behind my house, and I will do that, and people will be walking with masks, which is perfectly fine. We're completely more than 6 feet apart. but I'll try and say hi, and they won't.
Why do you want to do that?
I just like making people feel uncomfortable, but that's the connectedness where it's like, honestly, try this.
Yeah.
Go out, whether you're in a city or a small town, and just try and at least make eye contact or do like a little like
Trust
nod.
me, I know.
Right?
Let me intervene quickly. I remember when I was like probably 21, I think I was dealing with some social anxiety.
Okay.
Okay, and you know me, I'm not necessarily the type to give off any sense of social anxiety, and I definitely don't, now because I overcame this issue. But for some weird reason, there was a year in my life where I was really socially anxious, and it was very hard for me to go out.
Mm.
So I would go out and just keep my head down and not make eye contact with anyone. I don't know why. I was a growing boy going through my ups and downs, right? Yeah. And I read this one kind of like a forum where there were these people kind of trying to coach each other on how to become more socially dynamic and improve their social skills. So one thing that they taught me to do was and it was a test, it was a challenge. You have to go out and get a walk down a busy street for an hour and make eye contact with people and smile.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
The worst.
No. Yeah. So I did. And it took me like at first, I could only do a couple minutes of it at a time. But within a week, I built up to an hour. And what I noticed was, I was like looking at pretty women. I was looking at, guys, babies, whatever. And I was making eye contact, smiling. And they'd smile back. And it made me realize, I'm like, we're all the same. Yeah. I'm a human that's worthy a smile. I guess there was something, maybe almost like a sense of rejection that I was worried about. But, going out and smiling and making eye contact with people made such a big difference. And that alone, actually, I think probably helped to change my life. Because all of a sudden, it became a lot easier for me to do things like date and meet new people and improve my social skills and develop a better social network. And
if you want to make a big change, you need to focus on those little things first.
Yeah. And I got out of my shell, and it allowed me to become more of myself and to feel a lot less like I needed to hide who I was. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge confidence booster. So, I mean, even though you're going out to do it to slightly challenge people, you're probably going to help some people that maybe have been, again, stuck inside for a long period of time and have not had that human interaction, right?
And if you're looking for some sort of lifestyle factor that could positively affect your immune system, I would say, you don't have to be like me. I have a squat rack in my living room, right? Like we're sort of weird like that. Go out and move your body and get some natural sunlight. There are so many factors there. Yeah. You're walking, so there's
one of the best things you could do.
Activity, there's sunlight, there's perhaps interaction with people. Yeah. You're grounding with nature. So one activity, so many benefits. Yeah. And then that one walk could possibly lead to a jog if that's your thing, or maybe doing some body weight exercises at home.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's huge. And the amount of times I've tried to tell people to go out for a walk, like people will, say, hey, I've been struggling with X, Y, Z. I'll be like, listen, the first thing you need to do is to start going out for walks.
Absolutely.
Because I know most people have been stuck inside. Yeah. Especially because it's cold. So, I just want you to get out. I want you to go for a 30-minute walk and see some human beings, see some trees, look at the sky, Look straight ahead when you're crossing the street, though. Look at the sky in every other situation. And I've had people within a week say, what a significant difference that's made to my mental health. And now I'm so much more motivated to do everything else you're telling me I should be doing. And, it's a free tip. It's a free suggestion. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm just trying to get them happy and improve their quality of life in a time where quality of life is dramatically reduced because so much is off the table. Speaking of quality of life, you brought me this amazing coffee. Was it an espresso or coffee?
That one was an espresso. I know you're an espresso. I'm just a straight up drip coffee.
And where was this? On Queen Street?
It's on Queen.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Pretty close to here?
Yeah, it was like 2K away.
Yeah. So when you, obviously coffee is one of the world's, it's probably the biggest drug, right?
Absolutely it is.
But what is your perspective on coffee as far as its health benefits?
It is, so, you're asking the right person. It's funny, when a client will come to me, two things. They'll be like, are you going to take away my alcohol and are you going to take away my coffee? Drugs.
Yeah.
And for those who are Dave Chappelle fans, caffeine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
So in the standard American diet, and we're in Canada, the standard North American diet.
Yeah.
Coffee seems to be one of the most antioxidant potent foods that we're consuming.
Because they lack in so many other areas.
Right.
Yeah.
This is nothing to be proud of.
For
y'all.
sure.
You know, for
for
the
sure.
coffee lovers.
But it is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about coffee, I'm talking about like this was a organic, fair trade, locally roasted coffee. I'm not talking about.
So no one had to die for these beans.
Extra whip. No. Well, I don't. I mean, I try my best to support as much.
I don't know what fair trade is, but I'm assuming it has to do with fairness.
Coffee farmers aren't paid properly.
Okay.
And there's a monopoly like everything.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure like 3 old rich white men own everything.
Yeah.
And they probably own coffee too. But so coffee is a huge source of antioxidants, and a meta-analysis was done on coffee consumption. So first of all, I mean, for those, like there are far better experts than I. Michael Pollan wrote a book called Caffeine. You can get it on Audible. It's actually a very short read, and it's phenomenal. It talks about the history of coffee, the cultural influence of coffee, you know, where it's originated, and then of course a lot of the health benefits. One of the quotes, and I'm going to butcher it, but he says, you know, no true act of genius or intelligence has ever come out of green tea.
Yeah, that's really funny.
He's talking about coffee, right?
Like
so
that.
Listen, we have that balance.
Yeah.
So like everything, you can go over the edge. If you're a poor metabolizer of coffee, you get shaky, you know, probably don't consume it all the time, or add some good quality healthy fat to lessen that spike.
Yeah.
But I mean.
So with that being said, obviously you're a fan of coffee like myself. What do you think people can add to their coffee without making it less beneficial? Flavor-wise,
that's a good question.
Right?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to go the direction that you probably think I'll go in, which is like add MCT oil and make yourself a fat coffee.
I don't like MCT oil. Just it changes the texture almost, right? Makes it oily.
It does. Well, and if you blend it, it can be, you know, more creamy and frothy.
Yeah.
Some people find they get a little gastric discomfort, especially if they've never had a fat like that.
Yeah.
It's a fast metabolizing fat, so you run to the bathroom. So a few things, like, yes, you can. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of adding like collagen into my coffee.
Yeah.
It's a nice way. So the first area that I focus on with, especially a lot of my female clients that are looking to optimize health, change their body, you know, become more lean, let's say, is focusing on protein. And where can we possibly increase protein? And that's usually, we're usually missing the mark huge.
So you'll add it to this.
I'll add some collagen protein to my coffee.
Okay.
So that's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about dairy and the fact that some people feel they can tolerate it well, others definitely can't. I definitely know I'm the one that can't.
Yeah.
But a good quality, like grass-fed, full-fat cream, like a heavy cream.
Yeah, that's what I add to it.
Right. For some people, not a big deal.
Yeah.
So those are some areas where you can kind of boost your coffee.
I remember when I was in Portugal.
Yeah.
And this was probably one of the first times I ever added heavy cream to my coffee.
Okay.
I was with a bunch of Paula Quinn heads, and it was his birthday yesterday. And they were asking for cream. And so I said, sure. And this guy comes up, and he has this steel, container, tips it over, and the cream just slowly drips down. I was like, what is this, molasses? You know?
Yeah.
And it was like probably the thickest and most naturalist form of heavy cream, and it changed my life. And now literally I want to add heavy cream to my coffee all the time. It's so good, but not a lot. Just, you know, maybe like
you don't need much.
tablespoon,
so
maybe
rich.
even half of that.
Yeah.
But, you know, going back to coffee as being a drug. And obviously, you know, there's a lot of factors when it comes to drugs and possible health benefits. Like, you know, we've got things like all the new research coming out about mushrooms and psilocybin and even like LSD and its possible impacts on improving PTSD and depression symptoms and things like that. It's funny. I don't know if I ever told you the story, but I remember I went to Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay. And
beautiful.
Colorado is known for their marijuana.
Absolutely.
Right?
Lots of cannabis.
And I'm not big into that at all. I don't find it interacts well with me. I think my brain is already so strangely wired that when I add anything to the mix, I usually get a pretty bad impact. But a friend of mine convinced me to try CBD.
Okay.
And I don't know if this was the first time I've tried it or the second time, but I remember the first time I tried it. I believe I had a positive experience because it's no psychoactive ingredients. It's just the anti-inflammatory, body calming kind of part of cannabis, right? So I said, listen, I'll only try what you have if you get CBD only. So he goes into this like weed shop and comes out with these little jellies, right? And he's like, all right, so they were able to do like a 1 to 10 ratio.
Okay.
So like 90% of it was CBD, 10% of it was THC. But what he didn't explain to me was that each gummy had a significant amount of both. Okay. I don't know any of this stuff. So I pop one in the car. I'm like, this is awesome. It tastes like a Starburst. Mm-hmm. We go back to our Airbnb, and I'm talking to my wife on the Facebook. She's back home, and she told me that what she remembers is me telling her what I did, and she's like, "Oh no, big problem." So I'm typing to her, and all of a sudden I'm starting to notice that I'm having trouble finding the letters on the keyboard. But at this point, I'm so high, I don't realize I'm having trouble finding the letters. So I'm like, A, U, L, but I'm not. It's not registered, and that is not normal. And I'm telling her that I'm fine, and then she just notices that all of a sudden, like that green dot that says you're available just disappeared. Because I shut my laptop.
Brain was not available.
I shut my laptop, and I just stopped talking to her, and I think what happened was my buddy came into the room and he's like, "Hey man, how you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm fine." He's like, "Here, have another one." And I didn't realize how high I was because I'm so high. So I took another one. and my life almost ended. I pretty much locked myself into the bedroom, turned off all the lights, got butt naked,
excellent,
laid on the bed, and when you see a baby just laying down, like moving their limbs around. I was doing that trying to find the cold spots on the bed to cool down because I was sweating so profusely. I was so overheated. My heart was pounding so hard that I saw my chest going up and down, and it was all I could hear was my heartbeat. It was like boom, 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 and it was pitch black in there. And we were supposed to go out for dinner at 7. I was never heard of again, or heard from again. And every time I'd close the lights, the room would spin. So I'm laying there going, "Oh," trying not to throw up. For like 10 hours straight. And then every time I'd close my eyes to try to get the room to stop spinning, I would see this cartoon demon girl.
This was just cannabis?
I guess so. Bouncing around. And it scared the crap out of me. So I'd have to keep my eyes open and just deal with the spinning.
This is a mystic experience. People pay good money
I had a hallucination experience for sure. And for like a week after that, I was messed up energy-wise. I felt so out of it and so like not like myself. And it's experiences like that scare me away from any type of use like that or any type of experience like that. I never have a good experience. Like it's always so strange and so messed up. And it's funny because I understand the benefits of like CBD on overall inflammation management and health, right?
Yeah.
But I just can't touch this thing because I don't want to experience, these Space Jam cartoon like hallucinations that I have zero control over. It's crazy.
It's funny that you say control because as I was thinking that, and this is definitely something that I struggle with huge, is the control factor.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's the allure for the reason that a lot of people use drugs, but it's also the reason why a lot of people abstain because they don't like that feeling of loss of control. And that's just interesting to me.
Well, apparently, if you overdose on cannabis, because they say you'll never hear of someone who's died from an overdose of cannabis, but it's actually possible. So what happens is if you have a pre-existing heart condition, you have and you overdose on cannabis, generally what happens is you can experience heart palpitations to the point where it can stop your heart.
Interesting.
And I have an irregular heartbeat.
Yeah.
So I was at risk, and I just didn't realize it. That's why my wife was worried. She was like, "Oh no," because I literally turned everything off, and she's just like trying to get in contact with me because she knows that she's probably thinking this guy is literally having the worst time of his life right now. Guaranteed he's in hell, and there's nothing I can do because I'm 5,000 miles away from him right now. And it was quite an experience. I still bring it up to my buddy, and I still blame him. I told him.
Giving you the second.
I told him that this is not a good idea, buddy, and he convinced me. And he's just like, "Take another one, buddy." It's like, it was brutal. But here we are. I made it through. I hope. Unless this
This
is
is probably all just a dream.
Can you imagine? You're actually the demon girl.
Yeah.
And just without the mask off.
Probably.
That'd be messed up. Yeah, it's. Have you ever had any weird experiences like that with any special ingredients?
So like I'm a big fan of cannabis. It's worked really well for me, being like super alpha.
Just CBD or a mixture?
No, both. Okay. Yeah, both. And it's funny that you brought up an edible story because, so it's like circling back to the control thing, that was a big test for me.
Yeah.
Because if you smoke or you use an oil, like you can typically tell when you're going to start to feel high.
It's easier to
But
manage.
if you have an edible, like, okay, yes, probably around an hour. Oral ingestion takes about an hour. But then all of a sudden it's like, bam, you're high.
Yeah. And they say it doesn't peak until 4 hours in.
Yeah, well, it's going to stay in your system longer. It's a different kind of high. Yeah. And that was something where I was like, something that I'm trying to practice is letting go of that feeling that I need to control everything.
Yeah.
And that's been an amazing practice for me. It's very helpful for when I experience the type of anxiety that I experience.
Okay.
But no other interaction with other chemicals or substances. But I do see that there's been huge research that's been done. I mean, it's a lot of political stuff where
because they're going to be they're working on pretty much decriminalizing pretty much every drug in the world in the U.S. right now. I think they just did it in Oregon.
There have been, I think Colorado did too. It's psilocybin.
I don't know, but what I do remember hearing is that Oregon, literally every drug.
That feels random.
Oregon. But you know what they're doing now is instead of arresting you if you're found with a certain amount of drugs, they will I think they'll fine you $100 and but they won't arrest you and it won't go onto your criminal record. They just fine you $100 and that $100 goes to rehabilitation centers.
Love it.
So it's like a direct donation.
Well, so many people have talked about it, like let's say artists, right? So like War on Drugs. There's a like punk group, No Effects, that has a song called like Oxymoron, I think, and it's about just the difference between you can go to like a liquor store and score.
Yeah.
So why can't you pick up, let's say cannabis? This was before in certain areas that don't have that option. It's not legal there.
It's interesting, like some of the most brilliant minds and some of the most amazing inventions, amazing music, amazing art have been created while people were using heavy drugs. So we don't want people to have to use those to feed us magic. But if they choose that is necessary for them to feel less pain and to feel happy, and one of the things it allows them to do is to create art or come up with an invention or come up with a formula that changes the world of physics. Like, we should not be people who control others to a degree where it stops them from giving to the world what they truly have.
You can tap into your subconscious, but that would be dangerous, wouldn't it? Because I don't think a lot of decision makers would want people to be able to experience that.
Yeah.
And why can I prescribe you oxycodone?
Yeah.
But you can't be allowed to smoke a joint. And to your point,
well, we can now.
Something beautiful.
We can now. But before that, like honestly, that stuff scares me. Like tapping into your subconsciousness. I feel like I have a certain level of going back to that sense of control of my mind, but I didn't always.
Yeah.
And when I didn't, it wasn't a good place. And I have a feeling that, again, my brain's got to be wired differently to the point where if I were to do something that could possibly change the wiring of my brain, change the way it fires, or even open something up, I'm hoping that it's not like opening up like my fear is, am I opening Pandora's box?
You'll never know.
Never be able to close it either. And I like my life, so I don't feel a need to experience that. I don't feel, but that also comes to the sense where it's like, perhaps I am hopefully connected enough to myself that I don't have that need.
Maybe you're done reincarnating and this is you enlightened.
That could not be further from the case. I hope. No.
Throwing you a bone here.
Hey, buddy. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's really an interesting world we live in, and I don't mean to judge anyone who does anything that helps them open their mind and experience themselves in a different way, and get to know themselves better, I definitely see and understand the benefits to that.
Yeah.
I just don't personally think I would survive it. I think it would crack me. I'd become probably insane.
I'm picturing you laying in a bed waving your arms around.
Or in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
How do you get out there? It's like, well, he took a little bit too much of XYZ. But yeah, it's interesting. I think I have a guest coming on, hopefully in the next month, who is an expert on mushroom therapy.
Yeah.
And things like that. And
it's fascinating.
And yeah, I mean, because I really don't know much about it, and I'm interested to, be able to learn. That's really the whole point of this podcast, is so I can listen and actually, converse with very smart individuals who can teach me stuff, right? And hopefully teach our subscribers and listeners some really, really cool and useful information while also having fun in a conversation, right? But yeah, I mean, I think we really dove pretty deep into some awesome topics, and I think it was really, really fun. Is there anything else you want to kind of bring up before we kind of wrap the show up?
That's a good question.
Up to you, buddy.
I don't know.
All right.
I mean, one thing I wanted to say is add salt to your coffee. That just randomly just popped into my head. Yeah, I'll add some salt to your coffee. Dr. James Nicolantonio, he's a PhD. He wrote the Salt Fix.
Okay.
I'm a really big fan of adding salt.
Yeah, I love salt.
Just as general, as much as we just said, nutrition is personalized. I feel like that's something that we all benefit from, and from a stress point of view,
good for your adrenals, right?
Phenomenal support.
When you say salt, is there a specific type you're recommending?
Like, definitely not your iodized table salt. Like, table salt.
Because that's what most people are going to think. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for bringing. That's a good point. Like, table salt is typically
removes,
glucose and sodium chloride. I'm talking like Redmond real salt, Himalayan pink, Celtic. Like, totally live it up. Have all types.
Is it Celtic or Celtic?
Did I say Celtic?
I
think I was trying to say Celtic.
I was just worried that perhaps I've been saying it wrong the entire time. I was like, wait a minute.
That's the proper pronunciation.
Oh, it's Celtic. The Celtics. The Celtics? I don't know. I'm going to have to Google that now.
No, it's definitely Celtic.
Okay, I think
it's Celtic.
I hope so.
Have a lot of salt.
Yeah. But do you find that changes the taste?
So salt is known to enhance the flavor of food.
So it enhances it?
It would actually enhance. So, like, again, fun fact, random. If you're baking like a chocolate dish, like a cake, for instance, adding in, and you'll see this in recipes, there's a little bit of salt, and it'll enhance that chocolatey flavor. So a little bit of salt in your coffee will, in fact, do that. A lot of people, like, coffee's a diuretic. And
would you add it to the finished product, or to
I would add it to the finished product. And I'm not talking like make your coffee taste like salt water.
Yeah.
I'm talking a bit of a pinch.
I'd be so upset.
That'd be bad.
Yeah, I'd be so mad.
Just like a teeny tiny.
There's nothing worse than feeling like you've ruined your coffee.
Life is I'd throw it out.
Yeah.
So this is This is a PSA. Life is too short to drink bad coffee. It's not good. Don't drink it. Get good coffee.
The first coffee I ever had, I was 19. It was Tim Hortons.
Oh God, was it a triple?
I don't know.
It's always that. I drink coffee now.
I think it was just black.
You don't drink coffee if you drink a double.
I don't drink coffee with like sugar or anything, because I'm not a sweets guy.
Yeah.
But it was Tim Hortons, and it was really nasty. But I was doing it because I felt like I needed a pick-me-up, and I felt like I wanted to feel more grown up.
Yeah.
And here I am now, obsessed with espressos and high quality.
Well, we've joked. You need to live
stuff.
in Italy. That's the mentality. Like, you have that European.
Yeah, maybe in like 20 years. That's where I'll retire, so long as it's still there. You know what I mean? Again, knock on wood, man. What a weird world we're living in right now. But yeah, I think we really, really did a good job here today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I would love to have you back, sometime in the future. So we're going to wrap this up, and I'm just going to say thank you for listening, and make sure to like the video, smash the button, subscribe, and leave a comment below so we can chat with you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, buddy.